Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the 2nd of June. Summer's here. Another Drago dog walk talk. Drago is angry today. He's angry, like many people, particularly angry at stupid Americans who decided to deep six what was left of any security from nuclear war. Let me explain. You know, it amazes me. People supposedly, or at least act rationally, or try to act rationally. In this case, I'm going to single out Colonel Davis on Davis's deep dive. So, switched it on, just out of curiosity. I watch him once in a while. The guy tries to tries to at least feign neutrality, more or less. But no, not yesterday. He comes on, and he sounds like an American kid at a football game, or fan at a football game, screaming because the quarterback of his favorite team is making a rush with a ball to the end zone. And the Ukrainians are back. Gee, it's the biggest hit since Kharkov. Gee, Colonel, try not to let your mask of neutrality fall off that fast, that hard. And when he says, somebody educated like that, says, I'm not going to wait till later, we've got to announce this as it happens. You know, there's a reason I didn't put any videos out yesterday. Because those are trying to announce it as things happen. They're just trying to ride the wave. And those that try to ride the wave usually wind up looking very, very foolish. And the colonel, a good colonel, is no exception in this case, as he declares that 40, 50 bombers were destroyed, which is interesting to watch, because the only video that's been played like a million times over and gets shoved to everybody is of a drone flying over and 2 bombers burning. Well, one of them is obviously destroyed because it explodes, and the other one is burning. One of the engines is burning. Stationary bombers. So what do you see? That's all you see. Other videos you see from a side, in the distance, smoke rising. 5 bases were attacked. 3, the systems, the air defense systems, were able to stop the attacks. Plus, people saw where they were lifting out of trucks, semi-trucks. I guess on the trailers there was no roof, so they were lifting off of that. The control pads inside. 2 bases were penetrated. Damage was, 1 second. Drago, рядом. На. Drago, стой. Damage was, the official numbers now are 4 strategic nuclear bombers destroyed and 1 transport plane destroyed. That's 4 out of 58. And the Ukrainian, you know, where do they get this 20, 30, 40, 50? They get it from the Ukrainians, which is the epitome of foolish stupidity. That somebody like Colonel Davis, who's been commenting on and off about this war for 3 years, would make a fool of himself to go along with that. Well, Colonel, you know, that's what happens when you ride the wave of hype. Again, who are you getting your information from? You're getting information from the Ghost of Kiev, Tank Girl, and all the other bullshit. Out and out bullshit that is Ukrainian and Western propaganda. It's not intelligence, just propaganda. You know what you put against that? The great attack. 25 villages taken in 5 days. That's what you put against that. As the front rolls along. And now about 3 times the rate it was going just 2 months ago. That's what you put against that. So, пошли. It's like I said, it's just amazing. Mature men, they should know better. You know, being Zelensky fanboys, because that's the moment. Well, I'll tell you what happened. Why were those bombers out in the open? Why? Because there's only one treaty left on nuclear deterrence. It's called the START Treaty. Russia has suspended its participation, but not really suspended its participation. That was more of a political jest. But in the bombers and everything else, they are still basically following the guidelines. The guidelines were all the strategic nuclear bombers had to be out in the open. They had to be out in the open, and to be out in the open so that satellites, what? So that satellites could see them, and they could be counted from satellite view. That's why they had to be out in the open. So, how did the Ukrainians know exactly where all placed, how many were there, and so on and so on? Very simple. The CIA gave them the information. The Trump administration gave them the information. Whether Trump knew it or not doesn't really matter, because Trump obviously showed himself that he has absolutely no control over his people. Same thing as last time. Why is anybody surprised? Trump 2.0, you think is going to be any smarter than Trump 1.0? I mean, this is the guy that's been leaked that Tulsi Gabbard has to news size his daily briefs and make it with PowerPoints and videos and things like that, because he refuses to read. He's too bored by reading the daily brief. Okay, so we're just a little bit better than a Biden. Just able to talk more or less in the concrete sentences. Again, why is anybody surprised? I mean, seriously? Drago, иди сюда. На. So anyways, so that's where we're at right now. Those bombers were out in the open to be counted by satellites. Satellite imagery, up to date. So they weren't in any kind of nuclear bunkers or hangars or anything of the sort. So they could be viewed very, very quickly. And who gave the information to whom? Well, not hard to figure that one out, is it? So the U.S. has accomplished the total removal of absolutely all of the nuclear deterrent treaties that the U.S. helped create. The U.S. that can't even replace its 1950s to 1970s Minutemen missiles. That's right. American Minutemen missiles that are still powered by 1970s computers with big floppy disks. They're supposed to be replaced by the Sentinel. Okay, so out of 440 missiles, they have to be replaced by the Sentinel, 400 Sentinels, so you're already going down 10%, 40 missiles. They require new launching silos, new control systems, new everything. Project $94 billion, passed in 2022, supposed to be online in 2030. This year, they will be testing a new rocket engine. Well, maybe. It's a big maybe. None of the silos have been dug. Not a single missile has been put together to fly. Just the engines haven't ever been put together yet. And the project's already at $135 billion and growing. You really think this... Oh, and here they said 2030. Wow, that's a really aggressive date. Welcome to the United States. Yeah. So this is the morons that are now cheering on that they basically murdered the last arms control treaty they had. And yeah, okay. Not dealing with the brightest people, and they are about as sharp as a box of marbles. And unfortunately, quite a few commentators have shown that they're just as sharp as the people feeding them the bullshit data. But they ride the hype. You get to ride the hype. And then regret afterwards when your credibility goes to the toilet. Well, what to expect. Again, smart people don't ride the hype. Smart people, if they want to have any credibility after the hype, they figure out what's really going on, and then they make some kind of commentary. That's kind of how you should be. Somebody made it to Colonel, again, who's not getting paid the big bucks of Fox News or MSNBC giving them what to read, what bullshit to read. At least you can understand these American generals. One, they were picked for being politicians and ass-kissers, not intelligent military men. Two, they get paid big bucks to lie through their teeth. So, you know, that on those 2 points, there should be nothing, nothing very surprising in that. But people who aren't getting paid to read big lies on corporate television in America or in England or in France, they should know better, considering it's their credibility and the credibility of their show. But I guess plenty of people who hype Ukraine in the end of the day, well, they couldn't help themselves. So that's how that goes. Unfortunate to say. So yes, START treaty basically is dead. Following any START treaty, you see what the Americans will do. And they'll lie, cheat, and steal, as Pompeo said, because that's what they're good at. There's no honesty, there's no honor, there's no credibility in anything the U.S. government touches, does, or invests in. Drago. So, such as that. And we go on. What else happened yesterday? Oh, terrorism happened yesterday. Why is that a surprise? It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise because the SBU, the ill-begotten child of the Americans and the British, is a terrorist organization run by terrorists, owned by American terrorists, owned by British terrorists. They are terrorists, nothing but terrorists, and deserve the same fate as IGIL. And the people that created them, they deserve the same fate as IGIL also. Let's not forget, Russia sent 50,000 ISIS bastards burning and screaming to hell. While the U.S. was fighting ISIS, there were convoys 5-6 kilometers long full of oil trucks, stolen Syrian oil going into Turkey, feeding Erdogan and his family in Israel. When Russia stepped into Syria, that all ended. There were 4 or 5 kilometer long burnt out convoys with dead terrorists who weren't making any money, and Erdogan losing and Israel losing because they weren't getting the stolen oil anymore. So yes, they hate us. Why do they hate us? That's why they hate us. We give them plenty of reason to hate us, obviously. So we don't play ball with their satanic crap. So anyways, what happened? Ukrainian terrorists blew up 3 bridges. 2 of those bridges, at least 2 of them, were blown up as trains were passing underneath. One was a transport train, the other one was a passenger train. 6 people killed, oh, I'm sorry, 7 people killed, 66 people injured. Yeah, that's their fight against what? Against the Russian military? Of course not. It's their fight against society. This is in the end the same people that blew up things like a Serbian train from the 1940s and were screaming that it was going so fast that they couldn't just avert the missile that was aimed at the bridge. Yeah, until it came out that they sped up the film for the media to 4 times the speed. Some 1940s train is not going to go fast. But again, the aim was never to take out just the bridge. The aim was to kill as many people as possible. That's what the U.S. is good for. It murders people in every single war in mass quantities. From the genocide of the Indians to the genocide of the Canadians' Niagara Village during the American invasion of Canada, the failed American invasion of Canada. There's actually another one back in the 1600s. Militias from Massachusetts went up and tried to take Toronto, even though they were all colonies of the UK. Go figure on that one. They got the same treatment as when the US tried to take Toronto in 1811. And on its retreat out that winter, the British moved 2 crack guard divisions of infantry into Toronto and then started marching in winter when nobody normally campaigns. And when the American forces that were holding Niagara Village found out about this, they ran off in shock. But before they did, they pulled all the people out in the middle of the night in their night clothes and burned the village and let them all freeze to death. And these people were the same cultural and gene stock as they were, who all had been living under the same king just 30 years earlier. So there you go. And it's just, so yeah, that's only to show what the Yanks are quite happy to do to everybody else. Just look at what they did in the South during the American Civil War. Burning, pillaging, murdering everything in sight. As Sherman's March and the other movements through the siege of Vicksburg, where the city was burnt. Atlanta was burnt. Plenty of cities were burnt. People murdered in cold blood, and in the occupation, no different. The occupation of New Orleans, especially crimes against women, the mass murder in concentration camps of contraband. Oh, I'm sorry, they weren't concentration camps, they were contraband camps. That is, the Yanks, the Union forces freed the slaves, kinda, sorta. They didn't know what to do with them because all of a sudden they forced all these people off the plantation. People don't have no place to go, so they set up concentration camps or contraband camps where they turned around and they worked these former slaves on their slave conditions to death. There's a camp called the Devil's Punch Bowl in southern Georgia. About 10,000 people died there of dysentery, of starvation, and they weren't even allowed to bury them. They couldn't get out of this bowl-shaped depression they were kept in, and so on and so on. So is this a surprise? Absolutely not. This is SOP, standard operating procedure. Murder civilians, and then people like Rubio, big boy Rubio, he calls up Lavrov and offers crocodile tears for the victims. You can take those crocodile tears and shove them where the sun don't shine, boy Rubio. Nobody's, Drago. No. Nobody is under any kind of illusions that you weren't part of all this, since you're screaming for it. America wants nuclear war. America wants conventional war. America's going to get everything it wants. The American people are going to be screwed, but they sit around and do nothing. While the government, whether or not Trump wants it or not, is irrelevant, because he's not in control, and that's obvious every day. When Trump doesn't even know that Putin, there was an assassination attempt on Putin. Twice he was asked that by two different journalists. And each time he says, well, I didn't hear anything about that. Well, if the President of the United States doesn't know that there was a direct attempt to assassinate Vladimir Vladimirovich with American intel, because Ukrainians don't see nothing past that border, to know that there's a helicopter convoy heading into northern Kursk, which is actually pretty far where he was flying, pretty far from the border, and the President doesn't know that? Who's giving the information over? Yeah, that shows you how much Trump actually has any control over what's going on. He's kept in the dark, kept ignorant, and he likes it that way because he spends most of his time online making stupid statements. Or maybe somebody else does it for him. You know what? 330 million people, and Trump, Harris, and Dead Man Walking. That's the best three candidates that the U.S. could come up with. I mean, seriously? Biden and Harris on one side, Trump on the other, out of 330 million people? You can't come up with somebody better? Maybe, I don't know, Colonel McGregor? Or quite a few other people? I mean, seriously. So there, that's how that runs. Anger levels are, of course, sort of roof in Russia. But that's what they wanted to. You know, this meeting today, Zelensky's going to get nothing but a basically surrender demands. That's all Russia can offer Ukraine, as is already stated. I mean, diametrically opposed sides, and the losing side is constantly trying to dictate terms. Yeah, this is one for the record books, of course, absolutely. The idiot circle that is the West. Yeah, it's, I don't know, do they make their cocaine lines in a circle and all go snort it until they run into each other's faces? Maybe. You never know what games they play. We're dealing with coke heads. So there's that. I wrote an article in Russian, and I stated flat out that the problem in Russia is literally the leadership doesn't understand how to talk to the West, because the leadership, well, Russia is an Orthodox country, which comes from the Greeks, the Orthodox Church. not only the Greeks, but very heavily Greek influenced, the Eastern Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire is Latin-based. So all the Catholics, all the Protestants are all Latin-based. Yeah, you Protestants come from the Catholics, so like it or not, that's how it is, reality speaking. So, even though I think a lot of Protestants don't even understand that all of them originated from the Catholics as their religious foundation. Interestingly enough, that many don't know. They don't really understand. A lot of people what Protestant means, Protestant. And the problem is this: in the Roman Empire, once the Greeks were part of the Roman Empire, the Latin was used as a judicial language. So this is the language of government, judicial language. While Greek was used as a artistic language, poetry, drama, and so on. Greek is mystical. Latin is, well, legalistic. So things like the transformation of the body and blood of Christ from wine and bread into the body and blood of Christ in the Orthodox Church is called it's called faith. It's called a godly mystery. One of those mysteries you accept on faith. The Catholics try to explain it. They came up with new terms for it because Latin can't handle mysteries. Latin needs something sharp and understandable. Well, this of course influences society and the way societies view things and communicate with each other. And one of the problems is, in Russian society, as you see, people are trying to communicate with hints and indirect, or telling you, this would be really bad for world peace. What I mean is, we're going to have to smack you down, you friggin' morons. But the friggin' morons don't understand that they're being told you're going to get smacked down. What they're hearing is, oh, we're complaining, this is bad, this isn't good. Hints and things like that, and these kinds of phrasing, what it gives to these idiots in the West, who call themselves leaders, is it gives them room for maneuver, in their heads anyways. It makes you, to the Western mind, it makes you look like you're not set in your way, you're not serious about what you're going to do or say, and there's room to play. There's room for play, there's room for maneuver, there's room for negotiation, when there is no room. And as I've said for the last 2.5 years, and I've said this to government officials, I've said this on the media in Russia, and I continue to say this, you have no idea how to communicate with the West. The West has to be very specifically communicated with. Mr. Merz, for every Taurus missile that flies into Russia, no matter where it's launched from or by whom, 2 Russian missiles will fly into Germany to strike A, military, B, energy, C, industrial or government sector. And yes, we will target your personal belongings at your house, and those around you will also be targeted. Any questions? That's the language little new wannabe SS like Grandpa Merz is going to understand. That's the only language these types of people understand. They don't understand anything else because they don't want peace. That's the other thing. Russians want peace. We always wanted peace. That's why if you read the letters from Peter the Great to Charles of Sweden, he was constantly telling him, stop this screwing around, stop these wars, let's talk. Charles didn't. Charles got beat down like a red-headed stepchild. Same went for World War I as a prime example. Russia was one of the last to fully mobilize. Why? Because at the very last minute, Nicholas II was running around and trying to calm everybody down and talk them off the cliff. This while everybody was already planning their celebratory conquest parades after a nice 2-month war. And that's the Russian problem, is we want peace, so we don't understand that the other people don't want peace. That's the last thing they want. Because we're trying to judge and project our values onto them. And that's pointless. You understand your opponent's mentality, not just his capabilities, but his psychology. And our people, unfortunately, don't want to do that. Refuse to do it or incapable of doing that. And that brings us to where we're at right now, which is ever closer to a full-scale world war. Whether it goes nuclear or not, I don't know. But we're marching down that road. And Zelensky and the CIA and MI6 made sure we just took a big old fat jump off to that abyss. And all of you who were sitting there and going, huh? Well, that's the huh. Look at your children. Look at them. And imagine them as shadow outlines on a wall. And if that doesn't upset you, then you're an amoral asshole that doesn't deserve those children. But if that does upset you, you better get off your arse and you better go do something about it, because you're heading real fast toward that. Real fast. And the US government and its Nazi whores all over the world, starting with Kyiv, are making sure and doing everything they can to make sure it all gets there real quick. Whatever the reason, these Satanists seem to want to do a death ride. Or maybe they actually believe that they can do whatever they want, nothing will happen to them. Oh well. So there, that's my last words on that. And for anybody that wants to ride the hype on something like that, and wants to keep any credibility, I'd suggest not to do that. But I was only a captain, and I refused the major's rank. And certain people are riding the hype, they were colonels. So I guess what can you say? Sad it is. Cheers.